Hi everybody, welcome to another video of vintage TV and radio stuff. Today I'm featuring a clock radio here, and it is your standard, typical, probably 70s or 80s clock radio, but this is a special one because it was an item donated to me by a guy I know, a friend of mine. We'll call him Steve, because that's his name, Steve. And he likes the videos that I do. He subscribed to the channel early on, and he said, I have a old clock radio I want to give you. And it's this right here. It's an RCA, as you can see. And I'll tell you more about it, this particular clock radio and its history in a little while. But let's first of all delve briefly into the history of RCA. It's way too complicated and long for me to talk about in a video like this, but in a nutshell, it goes back to the days of Marconi, basically, in the late 1800s. The Radio Corporation of America was concocted by a number of larger companies, including General Electric, back in the early 20s. It had to be kind of spun off into its own company because of antitrust laws early on. It has done so many things for the world of broadcasting over the decades. It not only created products that consumers could purchase to watch and listen to TV and radio, but it also created the equipment needed to create TV and radio. Everything from radio transmitters to TV cameras. It developed the technology. Of course, RCA also had its own record label. It was so incredibly diversified. But by the 70s, 1970s and 80s, RCA began to fall on kind of hard times. There was more competition in the consumer market from companies like Sony and Panasonic and other Asian companies. And so RCA eventually sort of just dissolved. General Electric kind of bought them back for a while. And then the RCA brand name was sold to Thomson Company, which is a French corporation. And so basically, whenever you see RCA products nowadays, it's really in brand name only for those who remember the RCA name. I think this particular one, the clock radio you see before you, probably was made back in the late 70s, early 80s, maybe mid 80s. Kind of toward the end, so I'm not sure if this was an actual like RCA product. I'm guessing it was. I don't have the model number handy. It doesn't really matter. I'll put it in the description. But this was, like I said, given to me by a guy named Steve, who lives in town here. I've known him for years, and he moved up here quite a few years ago to where we live in the Northwoods of Wisconsin. But back when he was in Chicago, he told me he had this, and I hope I'm correct, Steve, in this, because you told me this a long time ago, but he had this at his business in Chicago. He had a trucking business, and this radio basically sat in the office and was on all day long. And as you can imagine, if you're from the Midwest, you had plenty of great Chicago radio to listen to, AM and FM, during those years. And I'm probably thinking, back in the 70s and 80s, he probably was down in Chicago working at this trucking business of his. So imagine this sitting in the office collecting dust, and you can see it's a little dirty. I never clean anything that I put on these videos, or very rarely do clean them. It just sat there and played the radio all day long, and probably let them know what time it was too, obviously. So let's look at the front. First of all, you've got your display there, obviously, and the AM and FM bands. Of course, here's where all the action is. You had the snooze button, a sleep button, wake adjust, 1 or 2, and you can set it for wake, off, music, or alarm. Another wake set for number 2, wake. So you had 2 different basic alarms you could set for as far as timing is concerned. The on and the off switch to turn the radio on and off, and then up above that, off to the left again, a couple 4 little buttons actually. for reverse and forward of setting the time and the alarm. Also above there, decent looking sized speaker. Off to the far right, you have the tuning knob, the volume knob, and your band selector lever or switch for AM or FM. Off to the left side, you had your brightness control, either low or high for the display of the clock. And here on the bottom, you had your information about the model number and where you can call or write to get more information about consumer questions. This was an Indianapolis address, plus room for a transistor battery for memory purposes. Okay, I plugged it in, and we're going to set the time here. As I mentioned earlier, we have a reverse and forward buttons here. We have the forward button slow or fast. There you go. It's a little sticky. Or if you want to go backwards, you can go backwards, slow, or fast, which is kind of nice. It makes it easier to set the time. So that, I believe, is the time here. I also have a brightness control here. I'll leave it on bright, as I just lost a light. There we go. It happens. I'm just going to turn it on. Rhinelander.org or call for more details. This year, be happy and healthy for the holidays. Stop at Art Start in Rhinelander. That sounds pretty good. This is on FM, obviously. Contractually. That's positive on. Say.
This is ludicrous.
It's your home. That will only. State Farm is dead.
It's the same for every.
And you know how this isn't a greasy.
So the reception's pretty good, actually. I'm kind of impressed by that. So let's turn it back on again. Flip it to AM. And see if I can figure out where my dial is. There it is. Here's the AM station around here.
This season has been a success for the Packers because of the stretch they've had. Now, there's no way you can get fans to convince them that if you win some games here, because now the expectations
all right.
change. Now fans want to play.
So I can see my buddy Steve here, just in his office. He's got the sports station on, just leaves it on all day long. I don't know if he ever used the wake thing, but we're going to try that, I guess. I've got the alarm set for 12:50 p.m. So in a few seconds it should go on, hopefully, and there we go. Okay, so that worked. And once you hit off, it turns off the radio as well, or you can hit the snooze button, obviously. So now it's 12:50. Let's try to set the alarm by hitting the alarm thing here and going forward by a minute and setting it for alarm instead of radio. Now at 12:51, the alarm should go off, and we'll see what it looks like. There you are. Let's see if it gets louder and louder. Oh yeah. So I can imagine Steve's taking a nap in his office, and this thing goes off, and he goes, yeah, turn this off. Yeah, snooze won't even work. There it is. All right, well, here you are.
LSU on New Year's Day.
Nice and loud. That's on AM. So that sounds pretty good. Yeah, all in all, a functioning unit. You could, take this back into your office, Steve, and keep on listening to whatever station you want to listen to. Anyway, this is the RCA model RP 3650, I think it says here, 3650.
Wisconsin basketball's
probably made back in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, maybe mid 80s by RCA. Thanks to Steve for donating it. It's about time I got around to doing a video about it. And thanks for watching, everybody else. If you have any comments, leave them below. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel, please. And we'll have more vintage TV and radio stuff down the road. Thanks for watching.